All right, so Guild Wars 2 and RuneScape 3 have to be two of the only MMOs that I haven't spent an unbelievable amount of time with. I'm always wondering if it's too late for me to get into Guild Wars 2, so let's watch this video and find out.
Guild Wars 2 came out all the way back in 2012, and ever since its launch, it's been my go-to MMORPG.
I always have the vibe with Guild Wars 2 that it might be an MMO for the ladies. That's just sort of the vibe that I get. I don't know if it's true. We'll find out.
That's not to say I haven't played any other MMOs, but Guild Wars 2 is the one which I always find myself coming back to. I've clocked over 10,000 hours in this game, which means that for the past 10 years, I've been playing for an average of 3 hours a day. I think I need to go outside more.
That's not that bad. That's really not. I've seen people do significantly worse things to themselves. I can almost tell by how this person feels that those hours are a lot of hours, 3 hours a day on average. I can almost tell that this game is not something that's going to be super, super addictive. I am interested in playing Guild Wars 2, though. Does it have flying mounts? That's important to me.
But why? Why is Guild Wars 2 my MMO of choice? Why play Guild Wars 2? Hello gamers, my name is Luanity and I make Guild Wars 2 content for a living. Today I'll be explaining...
I'm definitely interested in playing Guild Wars 2. Don't get me wrong. Like, there have been things about it that I've seen over the past 5-10 years of my life that have made me interested, but I've just never had a reason to really get in. I've played maybe 5 hours of it.
To why I like this game so much, so that you can figure out whether you might like it too. We'll also talk a bit about the state of the game in 2024 and also the game's future.
Very cool.
Let's get started. The first thing you'll notice when you start Guild Wars 2 is that the playable races are kinda awesome. There's the less unique humans and
They're odd,
Viking
for
humans, but there's also the super creative beast-like Char, the plant-like Sylvari.
You mean the Tauren and the Green Giant
But there's
race?
also the super creative beast-like Char, the plant-like Sylvari, and also the rat.
Oh, and you mean the what are the ones from Final Fantasy 14? Why can't I remember them? Oh my gosh. Not the what are they called? What are the little ones from Final Fantasy 14 called? That's what these are. If I could only remember the name right now. Hold on. Little people in FFXIV. What is it called? Lalafell. You mean the Lalafell?
Like Asura. That's not an insult. I actually think rats are very cute and
Okay, sorry.
wow, just look at their animations. Guild Wars 2 is a game which just feels very polished and very high quality.
It does look really good and slick. I will agree with that. Like, the combat looks very, very responsive. It looks quick and snappy. It looks like it would be a lot of fun to play. Very action-oriented.
Movements and animations feel incredible.
Yeah.
The combat is super satisfying and the game world looks absolutely gorgeous. Actually, let's start there. In most MMOs, the open world is kind of the least exciting part of the game.
Okay, I already don't like the pathway that this person is taking with describing why you should play this game in 2024. Calling Azeroth, what'd she call it? Uninteresting?
In most MMOs, the open world is kind of the least exciting part of the game.
Calling Azeroth the least exciting part of the game, calling Gielinor the least exciting part of the game, calling whatever the world of Maple story is, the Maple world, the least exciting part of the game is just not a good way to start it, for sure. The worlds are almost always the most exciting parts of the game in MMOs. The world that you're living in, everything else is just an extension of it. Your characters, the races, the people, everything is just an extension of it. And WoW has some really beautiful locales.
Game. You run around doing quests to level up, but once you hit max level, there's usually not many reasons to go back. Guild Wars 2, on the other hand, has a
Sometimes that's true. There is a lot of dead content in those MMOs, for sure.
big focus on its open world, even in the endgame. The world is filled with so-called dynamic events, which are just kind of things that happen. Maybe a village is being attacked, maybe an NPC needs escorting to a nearby town, or maybe a dragon is determined to kill everyone ever. These large-scale events are called meta events, and they usually require massive groups of players to complete. It is so cool to take down a massive boss with an army of players, and the rewards are still very good, even at max level. Other MMOs have tried to do stuff like this, but in my opinion, nothing comes even close to Guild Wars 2's.
There's a lot of world bosses in a lot of different MMOs. I don't mind this video so far. I don't have any problem with her content and style, but it does strike me almost as like being a little bit off of the there's like a lack of having played a bunch of other MMOs. And I don't know if that's true. This person might have played a ton of other MMOs. I have no idea. But the things that they're saying kind of make me feel like, have you really fallen in love with other MMOs before?
Event system. Besides these events, there's also a big focus on exploration. And sometimes the game can almost feel a bit like a Metroidvania. To explore the whole
That's
map,
cool.
you have to level movement tools, such as gliding,
so that is
bouncy
cool.
mushrooms, skips, and of course, mounts. Guild Wars 2 has, in my opinion, easily the
I will say it looks like a better Black Desert Online to me. Like the graphical style of it looks like Black Desert Online, but more. But I like the animations better. I think that's much smoother animations.
best mount system out of any MMORPG. They're so good that WoW Dragonflies got maybe a little bit inspired. Honestly, I kind of think it's a good thing for MMOs to take inspiration from each other, but you know, sometimes you just cannot beat the original. Guild Wars 2 has 9 different mounts, which might not seem like a lot at first, but each of these mounts handles completely differently.
So they're different types of mounts, but are they different? Are there different skins? Can you get different mounts inside of that or not? Like, is there mount collection in this game?
Raptor can, for example, jump super far and cross gaps. The Springer can jump super high and is ridiculously cute. The Skimmer can hover over water, the Skyskill is like a free-flying helicopter, and the Griffin is basically a jet plane. Each mount is an absolute joy to use, and I think they are easily the best mounts in the MMO industry. Next, let's talk about the Guild Wars 2's combat. The combat in this game is in 2 words: fast and mobile. Imagine taking a generic tap-targeted MMO combat system, but then you fuse it with a MOBA. Almost all of your skills let you move while you cast them, and there's also skill shots, gap closers, blinks. The combat moves very fast, and it feels very...
There's a lot of that in most MMOs. This is the thing that, like, this is why I keep coming back to this concept with this video of, like, I don't know if this person has played a whole bunch of other MMOs, because a lot of MMOs, when you get to endgame, all have these things. All have, you know, gap closers and all have blinks and all those things as well. That's very, very common. You know, I mean, the warrior class in WoW has gap closers. Like, it's not an unheard of thing. It's interesting, for sure. The game looks really, really good. I'm not trying to downplay how good the game looks. I have fallen into this trap now to where I'm watching this video and just think, like, this person is such a fanboy for this game that it feels odd to me for some reason.
Compared to many MMOs out
But I think a lot of people see, like, Lucky Ghost is the kind of person who I enjoy watching his videos about things, because he sort of plays all the different MMOs. So he's not just like he's not just trying to bring you to one because that's where his market is. He's trying to cover all of these different games. So this is definitely an odd experience.
Guild Wars 2's combat also features a dodge roll. This feels a lot like Monster Hunter or Dark Souls. And if you want to survive the hard encounters, you will have to master this. You only get a limited amount of dodges, so you cannot just dodge spam to victory. Looking at you, Dark.
The combat looks really, really good. I think that I definitely want to play this game, if nothing else, just for the combat. It looks incredible. It's very interesting.
Free. If your HP hits 0 in Guild Wars,
the way that okay, let's watch this.
Victory.
Like these animations, the dash back and everything. This looks so much less MMO. I do get what she's saying about how things are different than other MMOs, because it does look way less MMO. But I wonder how it actually controls, because a lot of times a good animation in a game can make you believe that it's going to control a lot better than it actually does.
You only get a limited amount of dodges, so you cannot just dodge spam to victory. Looking at you, Dark Souls 3. If your HP hits 0 in Guild Wars 2, you don't immediately die. Instead, you go into down states. This is similar to lots of shooter games that you might have played. It gives you a chance to take down this 1 HP enemy and come back, and it also gives your teammates an opportunity to arrest you. Guild Wars 2's combat is pretty easy to pick up. You can immediately hop into the game and have a good time with the combat. But if you enjoy a challenge and truly want to become a...
It does seem different from most MMOs that I've played in a couple of key ways. Like, it feels like there's it's not just going to be a game that I can jump into and then just play it based off of my experience with World of Warcraft. Like, Final Fantasy XIV definitely allowed me to jump into that game and just play it through, and I understood what was going on immediately, except for the idea of tank stancing and all that. Like, I didn't realize that you were just put on a tank stance and just go. And I feel like this game is going to be a little bit different than that. Like, there's going to be core mechanics that are slightly off kilter and throw me for a loop.
Pro at the game, there is a ton of depth here that will keep you coming back for more. 12,000 hours of coming back for more in my case. Guild Wars 2 features 9 different playable classes, with each 3 elite specializations that they can become at max level. All of these 27 specializations play quite differently, so it's pretty likely that there will be one that fits your playstyle.
Yeah,
By
totally.
the way, if you're not sure which one to pick, I actually have a class guide video on my channel showcasing all of them. Link is in the description. But
I often find that I can settle down on Big Sword and mostly be happy with it whenever I'm playing an MMO. I will occasionally play, like, I play a Warlock in World of Warcraft after I played Warrior for I don't know, a couple hundred hours. I decided that it wasn't actually for me, and I ended up going with Warlock, and I've had a blast with Warlock. But no, I don't find that I feel the need to play a whole bunch of different classes in MMOs. I usually find one that I enjoy and I can stick with it.
there is more to choose than just your class and specialization. The build craft in this game is incredibly deep. You also get to pick your weapons, utility skills, gear stats, traits, runes, sigils, relic. There are loads
For me, I'll probably just find a build and follow that build, to be
of
completely honest.
options, and you can really make a build that fits your playstyle perfectly. Wanna be a tanky mage?
I'll just be like, what's the best DPS mage build, and then I'll just go with that.
You can do that. Wanna be a warrior who yells at their friends to make them feel better? You can do that too. Warrior is actually getting a healer weapon next month, which I am really hyped about. This build freedom can be a little bit overwhelming at first, and it's also pretty easy to end up making a bad build. But fortunately, you can respec whenever you want, and you can always take a look at the internet and copy what the pros recommend. That is what I usually do.
Yeah.
Alright,
That's
you've
what
got your
everyone
build,
does in these
you've
games. The
grinded
meta is
your
what everyone goes for.
gear. You are now raid ready. It's finally time to join your friends and kill some raid bosses. Let's go! New patch just drops. Your previous gear is now worthless.
Oh yeah, there's no gear treadmill in Guild Wars 2. How does that make
Time
sense?
to start your gear grinds all over again. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Not really. I think it gives me a reason to actually play some of the content, to be completely honest. I have, like, ESO is also a no gear treadmill kind of game, even though new gear pieces do come out and there are different builds that come through, but your builds will usually still be viable in later patches. But no, I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing.
Well, in Guild Wars 2, this is not a thing. The game is kind of unique in the MMO space because it doesn't have a gear treadmill. The level cap and the best gear have been the same for the
Yeah.
past 10 years, which is honestly really nice. If you are one of those people who has what is known as a life, not me, this can be really helpful. You can easily take a break, return to the game later, and get straight back into the hardest endgame.
No, totally. I do think that it is kind of frustrating on some of the MMOs in the space, like World of Warcraft specifically, where if you're going to play, you need to play for like an entire month straight without stopping, because if you don't, then you're going to miss out on what's going on in that season. So you're really just stuck doing that if you want to play. And if you're not going to play for that season, then you might as well just not even really play that much, because why would you log in just to not make any progress when in 3 months, it's all going to be reset anyways, and you're just going to have to log back in to make that progress again. It's like you're not actually working towards anything. It's one of the big reasons that I like RuneScape so much, is that you take your breaks and it's not a big deal because you're always making progress to your in-game goals. Same thing with Elder Scrolls Online. You log in, you play when you want to, you do some DLC content, you do some expansions, and then you log back out and you're not really missing out on anything.
Content. All your gear from years ago will still
And you also find something really interesting with the players in those games where, like, you will see people playing all of the content at all times because it all has different gear pieces in it that you want for your builds.
be good. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but Lara, I don't want the game to be casual friendly. I'm an old school RuneScape main and actually enjoy grinding for
RuneScape-
hours
is
on
RuneScape
end.
3? It's like
If
RuneScape
there is
3.
no gear grind in this game, what is there to keep me playing? Well, you can also just play for fun because you enjoy playing the game. I know, it's a weird thought. Nah, I totally get you. I actually enjoy old school RuneScape as well.
Very
And
cool.
sometimes having a goal to grind for can be really fun. Guild Wars 2's endgame is all about chasing cool cosmetics and also legendary gear. The game has got a really solid fashion system where you unlock skins and dyes on your account forever. Have I mentioned that once you buy a dye, you can use it infinitely? It's so nice. But the absolutely coolest skins are from legendary gear. Legendary gear doesn't offer you better stats than the usual best installed gear, but it does look amazing and it also offers super useful.
So it's transmog the game. I could be into that. I do like transmog systems. I love putting together gear sets. Like that's a lot of fun for me. I will absolutely do dungeons just to get a better look set.
Utility, like for example free stat swapping, free transmutation, and using it on all of your alts at once. Getting full legendary gear is the ultimate grind goal in Guild Wars 2, and after 12 great hours, I am almost there. But the cool thing is, this legendary grind is entirely optional. It is there if you enjoy grinding, but you never need legendaries. Getting regular best installed race ready gear is really quite easy, and it doesn't take very long at all. Hey, by the way, I also totally have a guide on how to get gear, so you
Play this game and watch all of my content on this game. I get it. I do the same thing. I feel you.
should totally subscribe. Speaking of raids, let's talk about Guild Wars 2's endgame. Once you reach max level, there is a lot of content for you to do in this game. It can actually be a little bit overwhelming, which is why I made this other video to explain it to you. Alright, I need to stop.
I sort of get in-game and MMOs at this point, you know? Like, I used to have a very difficult time, but once you get to in-game in any MMO, you're going to find all these new kinds of systems that start popping up, and you're going to have to learn to master them. You know, whether you're getting your tier sets, whether you're doing raids, whether you're, grinding some kind of stat that is like you have to have this much in this stat in order to be able to do these things or whatever. Like, there's always going to be some kind of system that you end up going to.
Plugging all my videos, sorry. I'll give you the short version. Like I mentioned before, the open world in Guild Wars 2 stays very relevant even at max level, but there's also plenty of instance content to do if that is your thing. Highlights here are fractals, which are 5-man dungeons that you can progress to higher and higher difficulties. Fractals start easy, but once you progress to the higher tiers and try out the challenge modes, you are truly in for a challenge. For 10-man content, there are several raids and also strike missions, which are...
I'm going to be really honest. It doesn't seem like Guild Wars 2 has a whole lot that I haven't already experienced in other MMOs. That's what I'm noticing. Like, I think Guild Wars 1 almost looks better than Guild Wars 2 does to me. And I'm not trying to downplay this game or say that it's really bad or anything. Like I said, I would love to give it a try, and I love all MMOs, and there's always something unique and interesting in each one. But it seems a lot like a game that I've sort of already played, just with a different spin on it, if that makes any sense. Like, it almost feels superfluous to me, but I'm sure that there's a bunch of people that really love it because it's just their MMO. You know what I'm saying?
are basically standalone raid bosses. Since 2019, ArenaNet has kind of moved away from making raids in favor of doing the standalone strike mission bosses instead. The community was initially pretty skeptical about this, but in my opinion, ArenaNet has proven that these standalone bosses can be just as good as raid bosses. My favorite fight in the game is the Harvest Temple Challenge Mode strike. This is easily the hardest fight in the game, and it took me and my team about a month to clear it. But gosh, it felt so good once we did it.
Full DPS, full DPS. Red, you move out.
If you're more into PvP, Guild Wars 2 has two game modes for you. First up is Structured PvP, or SPVP. These are balanced 5v5 matches, where you capture control points and kill enemies to win. This is easily my least played game mode, because I'm just kinda bad at it. But some of my more skilled friends play a lot of SPVP. The other PvP game mode is World vs. World, and that game mode is more my thing. In World vs. World, massive teams of players fight in large open world maps over territory. There are...
So it's what's it called? So it's the World of Warcraft, or not the World of Warcraft one, the World of Battlegrounds. There we go.
Castle sieges, small-scale skirmishes, and
Or Cyrodiil.
also thief mains trying to gank you. There is a huge community around this game mode, and many Guild 2 players spend almost all of their time here. Recently, I've been doing a lot of World vs. World commanding on my stream, where I will team up with my viewers to try to take objectives. I think that at this point you have a pretty solid idea of what Guild 2 is like. It is a very polished MMORPG, with fantastic combat, a dynamic open world, and lots of endgame content.
I guess I don't know really what I was expecting. I've played enough of it that I sort of have the concept of what the game is. It is a tab targeting MMO. Obviously, it's going to fall in line more with Final Fantasy XIV and with World of Warcraft. But I don't know, man. Like it has this look about it that sort of reminds me of Mabinogi. If you guys remember playing Mabinogi, but like, I guess I'm just sort of looking for something else that has a kind of different vibe to it. And this game just seems like it has more of a World of Warcraft vibe. And I know that with the new World of Warcraft expansion coming out, I will be playing that game quite a bit. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit this one in or not.
To play. But Guild 2 is also 11 years old at this point. Is it still worth getting into this game? Let's talk a bit about the state of the game, because, well, nobody wants to play.
It looks good. I love the art style, though. Like, that shot was really, really cool.
Let's talk a bit about the state of the game.
This one.
Because,
I
well,
love that, dude. I
nobody...
love that armor set. That's super cool, and I love the casting of the fishing in here. If the fishing actually is a real fishing minigame where you have to do something active instead of just casting and wait until it bobs and then you pull it back in, that would get me to play this game alone. I played Black Desert Online just because I liked the fishing in
wants
it.
to play a dead game. I would say that right now the game is in a really good spot. In the past 2 years,
They're
we've
coming
had
out with a new DLC, right?
solid expansions, which were both financially successful, and the game has also come to Steam for the first time. No matter where you go in the game world, there's always people running content, and the chat is always active. As a new player, it's also really easy to catch up. Reaching max level is very fast, and obtaining max stat gear is also not very difficult. Honestly, there's really never been a better time to get into Guild 2. The studio is actually committed to doing yearly expansions from now on. Last year's Secrets of
I don't know how I feel about yearly expansions. Sometimes I feel like Elder Scrolls Online shouldn't be doing as many expansions as they are. Like, I just think that game pumps out way too much content for the quality of the content that they pump out. People have been very happy somewhat recently, but I feel like so much of it is samey.
the Obscure expansion was the first of these, but there will also be another expansion this summer, and there's already been talk of a 2025 expansion. These yearly expansions are a bit smaller than previous expansions, but they come out much faster, are only €25 each, and they also include a year of content patches. Speaking of expansions, Guild 2's monetization is also, in my opinion, quite alright. There is no subscription fee, and the gem store is one of the fair ones out
I've changed my mind. I like this person a lot. They're cool.
there.
Quite
You can buy
alright.
stuff like mount skins, backspace, and level skips, but I've never
Okay,
ever
so you do have mount skins. There we go. That's
felt
all I
like I
wanted to know.
needed to spend money to be able to keep up with my friends.
Yeah.
You can even trade gold for the cash shop currency, which means that you can technically buy anything on the gem store for gold instead of real money. The base game is free, but if you really want to play the game long term, I highly recommend getting the expansions. That's where most of the relevant content nowadays is. So I would really consider the free base game to be like a free trial. It is free though, so if you want to give the game a shot, all you have to do is go and download it. And that was a
Do you have to play the base game in order to get to the DLC content? Like, is that
very quick
important?
overview of why I think Guild 2 is a fantastic MMORPG. If you decide to dive into the
I'm sure it is a fantastic MMORPG. My only problem with this video really comes down to the fact that I feel like she didn't do a very good job differentiating what makes this really stand apart from the crowd, because I feel like it's a fantastic MMORPG. That's great, but so is World of Warcraft, so is Final Fantasy XIV, so is Elder Scrolls Online, so is Old School RuneScape. Like, all of these games are also fantastic MMORPGs. But like, for me, coming here to see and like, should I play this game compared to all those other games? I would have really liked a little bit more of an in-depth reasoning from like, oh, this is how it's different than them. She didn't even really mention the fact that the questing system in Guild Wars 2 is totally different from in any other MMORPG. That you don't really get quest givers and then you have to go and turn the quest back in. You just sort of go and complete the quest and then it's over. And that's what I think is one of the biggest selling points, is sort of the fluid gameplay loop of this game. But regardless, it was a nice video. I appreciate it being here, so definitely give it a like and subscribe to Larinity if you're interested in Guild Wars 2 content. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's for me or not. I'll have to do some more research on it. Like I said, I have the itch for another game at some point in my life, but I don't know if this is it or not. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Be safe out there. Peace.